South Africa is commemorating Youth Month. It's an event that springs out of the bloody uprising on June 16, 1976, that spread across the country, profoundly altering the socio-economic landscape of our country. What does this month mean for young people in a context where youth experience massive unemployment and other social challenges like poverty and crime? This country is home to over 10 million youth between the ages of 15 and 24, only 2.5 million of which are in the labour force. StatsSA tells us those outside employment are discouraged and losing hope. What do the youth in political organizations believe is the way out, and what are their aspirations for the role they believe they can play in politics to change their fate? Let's welcome to the program Lindokuhle Xulu, who is an ANC Youth League member, Nicholas Nyathi, Interim DA Youth Leader, Agnes Ramalepe, Secretary of the EFF Students Command in Gauteng, and Thabo Malosi, ActionSA Youth Senator. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciated. You know, all your comments to our producer pivoted around a central theme. It was unemployment. Share briefly what you think should be done about it. And Lindokuhle, will kick off with you. All right, we don't have Lindokuhle on the line just yet. Let's start with Nicholas.
Thank you for having me. Evening to everyone, and I'm sorry for connecting in the car. I'm currently in Secunda, where the youth of Secunda is marching for jobs. This is a national issue. It affects each and every young person. As the Democratic Alliance Youth, we are seeing the first step in addressing this would be the scrapped NYDA, because NYDA has become a cash milking cow, an ANC Youth League light, where only the cadres get to access it. Scrap NYDA, take the 500 million and invest it in youth opportunity centers. What this is going to assist in doing is to, number one, create and support youth-owned businesses. Number two, upskill people at a local level, because at the local levels, there is no support for youth. Scrap the race-based job-killing legislation such as BEE or your NHI, and introduce legislation that speaks and supports the private sector. Privatize state-owned enterprises. We can't keep on bailing out Eskom. We can't keep on privatize them. Invite independent power producers to come and produce electricity and create an environment that will in itself create jobs.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, you know, you raised a whole buffet of issues there, really, that you believe, you know, something needs to be done about. And in a way, some of those would lead to, you know, would have the effect of creating more opportunities for young people. And I wish we had time to go through each of them. But we may come back just now in just a moment to talk about the NYDA, for example. Let's move on to Agnes Ramalepe. Agnes, can you hear us? All right, let's go to Thabo Malosi. Thabo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead. Did you hear the question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I believe this is the time to reflect as this generation and really define our own future. And I think what we can do now as an immediate solution for me, I would say, let's bring back agriculture. I mean, we have a national feeding scheme in South Africa. So let's make sure that we bring our small farmers. We need them to be the one that are producing food and feeding our learners. And I think that on its own, it can actually create a job. And at some point, it can also help our small farmers to grow to commercial farming. But equally, we need to make a serious call to the Minister of Basic Education, Mayor Njimutsega. I mean, we don't need SATU to be involved, because, my sister, once we fail it from the basic education, unfortunately, our future is in serious trouble. So
yeah, I was going to come, actually, Thabo, I was going to come to education next, because that was the second most important theme that a lot of you were talking about. And maybe if you can pick that theme up immediately, let's talk about what you think. If you were speaking directly to the policymakers and deciders of what is taught in school, what would you say directly to them?
Well, I will tell them that it's time that we change our curriculum if we have to speak about education. We need skills that will speak directly to the economy. I mean, for the past 28 years, I think we've been producing theoretical qualifications for our youth. We don't need education that will channel young people to be employees. We need now to have employers in South Africa. I don't know if you can allow me to come to the issue of NYDA. With the issue of NYDA, I kindly agree with Nicholas, but I believe that you don't have to scrap it, but you need to find partnership, you need to find banks to work with NYDA, because I mean, I believe 40% of the budget of NYDA is actually spent on salaries. Then the rest is spent by the board directors touring around the country, telling us the operating hours of NYDA. They don't have enough resources, they cannot help young people, so we need that partnership. And again,
right.
we need to support private sector in South Africa. COSATU must stop this thing of, I mean, South Africa used to be an industrialist country. We have many factories lying there being closed because of unions coming and imposing their policies that are actually chasing away investors in South Africa.
All right, let's get you to take a breath there really quickly. Let's bring in Agnes Ramalepe, who's Secretary for the EFF Student Command in Gauteng. And Agnes, I've been asking the question, good evening, by the way, welcome, lovely to have you, asking the question around, unemployment and what you believe would be that sort of almost immediate opportunity to put young people to work.
Well, thank you for having me, and good evening to the viewers at home. The overall unemployment rate was 3.9%, which dropped to 34.5% earlier this year. Now, with regards to unemployment, we believe that the TVET sector is going to play a key role in ensuring that unemployment is eradicated in our country. What the government should do is that they should invest more capital, resources and finance into TVET sectors, and also ensure that these TVET sectors do produce quality and well-resourced graduates that will in turn make sure that small businesses are built around our communities, and that those small businesses do absorb the youth inside our communities. In that way, we can make sure that we are not only empowering one person, but we are empowering a whole community. So with regards to what I think the speaker before me said in regards to industrialization, TVET colleges play a key role in TVET colleges, and I find it very disturbing that government has decided to sort of neglect TVET colleges, because TVET colleges are the key that is missing in the link for industrialization, and they are going to play a key role if indeed we are going to talk about industrialization as a country, if we are going to take this country forward. We can't talk about privatization when we have TVET colleges that are going to help this country become an industrialized country.
Lindokuhle, I'd like your thoughts on this question. You might have missed it because you may not have been there right at the very beginning, but saying unemployment is one of the #1 obstacles standing in the way of young people in our country. What is your view on the way out of it? What good ideas do you have?
Well, firstly, I would like to disagree fundamentally with the speaker who touched on that point, more especially who also touched on NYDA and privatization. I believe that the objectives of NYDA are correct. The purpose of NYDA is a correct purpose, but NYDA itself is underfunded, right? How many young people you have in the country? And what is it that 500 million can do for young people? Because NYDA should be an instrument that is used to facilitate the participation of young people in the mainstream economy. Meaning that if a young person wants to establish a mining company, NYDA must be able to assist that young person. If a young person wants to establish a farm, NYDA must be able to assist that young person. But at the moment, the funding of NYDA is such a way that is only enough for petrol and administrative purposes. And it then ends up as an entity that assists young people who want to open economic activities that do not have impact. It assists young people that open saloons, open car washes, and other businesses, but it does not have the capacity to assist young people who want to play a role, a meaningful role in the mainstream economy. And what we must demand as young people is that NYDA gets enough billions to be able to facilitate the participation of young people in the mainstream economy. So I want to go to privatization.
No, hold on a second there, Lindokuhle, because we're limited on time, and you've picked up this point. It seems to be a running theme. I saw Nicholas shaking his head profusely with his jaw on his car, probably on the floor of his car. Nicholas, why are you shaking your head in disagreement?
500 million is no money. How can someone say that? 500 million for fuel? You're saying it's only enough for fuel? Do you know what a business, a saloon business means to someone who cannot afford to buy their sanitary towel?
I don't think the speaker had me correct. I am saying NYDA does not have enough capacity to facilitate a meaningful role for young people to play in the economy. Meaning that it can only...
500 million.
At no point I said there's no money, but I'm saying most of it, fact one, goes towards salaries, goes towards administrative and movement costs.
All right, I want to move. This is always my grief with moments like these where the conversation can go in many different directions and there's so much to explore. But I want to maybe put this to you guys as a closer, and hopefully we can have a longer debate a little bit later on. Do you think our politics is old and out of touch with the current pool of parliamentarians and political office bearers? I was reading a stat from the UN Youth, which found that only 1.65% of parliamentarians are in their 20s, almost 12% are in their 30s. And the average age of parliamentarians globally is 53, yet young people constitute a fifth of the world's population. Do you think young people like you should be in office now? And let's kick it off with Agnes.
I think, with regards to the ANC and other political parties, yes, they are out of touch. But we've seen the EFF taking a sort of different route with giving young people power, as giving them a chance to occupy offices in parliament. EFF is one of the parties that has most members that are, I think, below 30, and most of them are below 40. So that shows you that EFF is indeed prepared, and EFF is not challenged by young people. EFF gives young people a chance to lead, and they trust that young people are capable of leading. So other than that, I think EFF is the only party in South Africa that allows young people to lead. I don't know about others, but I speak on behalf of Students' Command and I speak on behalf of the Economic Freedom Fighters, and we are the only party that's giving young people a chance to lead.
Thabo, your thoughts?
No, thank you, my sister. I think current politics are actually out of the touch with community. And I think also since the introduction of ZANU-PF, which is EFF, we have seen young people even now staying away from voting, and also seeing DA as well failing to attract every race of South Africa, trying to focus now only to white people, and you can see what is happening there. But now I think with the introduction of ActionSA being a party that is able to attract every citizen of this country, and remember how ActionSA was even formed. It was formed by a true dialogue where we engaged every individual in South Africa to suggest if we do really need any political party anymore in South Africa. And indeed, more than 2.4 million South Africans, they said we need to have a political party, and that party must be led by Herman Mashaba, tried and tested entrepreneur, someone that was able to create jobs for South Africans.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Thabo, I was asking specifically about young people. So this was your opportunity to tell me how young people are sort of enlightening or, enlivening politics. I'm sorry that it's gone to just a party platform or, a sort of campaign message. Just very quickly, in a couple of seconds or so, because I want to give the others a chance to say what they want to say as well. On young people specifically, young people like you.
100%. I think it's time that we come together. The power is in our hands. We are majority as young people of this country. We need to come together and make sure that we form part of government that from national level to local level, we have young people involved, being policymakers, so that we can be able to implement what we want for our generation. That will also link with our education that we want. We can create jobs for other young people in South Africa. And that is possible with ActionSA. Thank you very much.
Nicholas?
Thank you very much. We need patriotic young
Okay, our signal there
South
is not working with us. So I'm going to hand it straight then.
Before we even get young people to councils and parliaments, is to get youth.
Yeah, no.
Can you hear me now?
Unfortunately, that signal's not holding. So, Lindokuhle, you get the last word. Young people in the ANC, and you know the criticism has been, and I think even amongst young people in the ANC themselves, that you need more young, fresh blood in executive positions.
Well, you are currently having a process of reviving and renewing the ANC Youth League. And it will have been difficult for young people inside the ANC to be able to participate meaningfully without a structure and without elected leadership. That is happening, but the ANC has never stopped to deploy young people in positions of responsibility. You have a number of young MPs from the African National Congress. You have a number of young MPLs, you have young mayors and young MMCs. It's just that we're broad and a big movement. So it's very difficult for others to notice, but there is a serious challenge of representation, societal, of representation of young people in positions of authority, whether in private sector, whether in public sector, whether in the educational system. There is a serious need for us as young people, not as young people of the ANC, but as young people, to wage a serious struggle to facilitate the meaningful participation of young people in the echelons of power. We need to make sure that we have young vice chancellors, we have young captains of industries, we have young ministers. How that will assist us? It will assist us because it will create institutions in society that are biased in their policy making and in their decision making, that are more biased to the issues and that are more sensitive to the issues of young people. So there is a need in society, in our political organizations, to make sure that we make sure that young people are adequately represented, not only represented, but also take center stage in positions of power.
Right.
You have different political movements in South Africa. How many political parties have a president who's younger than 35, or an SG who's younger than 35, or a treasurer general who's younger than 35? So you don't need it to do it as a PR exercise. You need to do it meaningfully. You need to place young people in meaningful positions so that we can see that they are responsible of taking serious decisions. So
I mean, I think it's interesting, Lindokuhle, that you would look at it comparatively and say, you know, because in the political spectrum there aren't any, as you say, SGs around that age, why shouldn't it start with you? Why shouldn't it start with the ANC? But Nicholas, we lost your signal earlier, so let's pick it up with you for the final word really quickly.
Just to add to what you were asking, when my brother is still disappearing a bit, we have programs that societally have been campaigning to have younger people in positions of responsibility. At some point, the ANC Youth League came and said, we want 40% representation in any structure of society, in any structure of governance, from parliament to municipality to provincial government. And that struggle is still in progress as far as the structures of the ANC are concerned.
I think we have to respect our time as well. Thank you all for being part of our debate this evening. That's all we have time for. Lindokuhle Xulu, ANC Youth League member, Nicholas Nyathi, Interim DA Youth Leader, Agnes Ramalepe, Secretary of the EFF Students Command in Gauteng, and Thabo Malosi, ActionSA Youth Senator.